Everybody else going good? I guess it's time we'll start. I now call to order this regular meeting of the Roby Consolidated Independent School District of the Board of Trustees. Today is August 31st. The time is now 7:30. On roll call, looks like everybody is here in person. Nobody on Zoom or absent. So I verify that we have a quorum of board members present per provision of the Texas Open Meetings Act or through video conference software. Mr. Carter, you verify that we comply with the Texas Open Meetings Act provisions concerning their notice for this meeting?
We do.
Mr. Edmondson, would you be nice enough to bring us an invocation?
Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this school. Thank you for those that serve here, Lord. We just come as servants, Lord. We just ask for your guidance over the decisions we make and how we lead and the things we do with our administration in this school. Lord, we do ask for your hand to be over this school with everything going on in the world and with viruses and everything else. Lord, we pray that Roby would be a school that stands out in so many ways. And much of that is because you're involved in it. And so, Lord, we just thank you for that and thank you for it. And just guide us tonight during this meeting in Jesus' name.
Thanks, Lord. Do we need to do public comment for our open meeting or?
We do not have any.
Do not have any. So at this time, we'll move into the public hearing part of our tax rate and budget.
Board, up on the screen is going to be the proposed budget presentation. You also have this presentation in your packet as well. Looking at the non-negotiables, you guys have a new copy of the new non-negotiables in front of you. This is the new hard copy. We have kind of gone back through and looked at some of the language and changed a little bit of it. So we wanted to make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that we're trying to stay within our mission statement and our non-negotiables. Remember, our active components is all about accountability, communication, transparency, involvement, value-driven, and excellence. So we're going to first start off and look at the fund balance. And this is what we currently look at is that our fund balance, which is in green, is 91.91% of this year's expenditures. So we're very, very close to a 1 year operating expenses for the district, which is one of the goals of the district is to get as close to 1 year as we possibly could. And so this is getting very, very close to that. And so I just wanted to let you know that we are in a very good, healthy fund balance at this point in time. Looking at some enrollment data, this is over the last 9 years, and this is something that we looked at the previous board meeting, so I won't belay the point. But this year's beginning of enrollment was 320.5 students. Now that was not a half a student walking around the hallway with no legs or one arm. No, that's not what that means. When we have pre-K students, some of our students count half of a person. So that's the reason why is by funding calculations. So just understand we have all full children here. It's just they only count half every once in a while. So our ADA, based upon the calculations that we agreed upon, was 293,065. And so we're looking at the beginning of the year to an RAD of 8.56%. So again, this was based upon a 9-year enrollment of the number for the analysis that we did. And it was compared to the beginning of the year to the ending of the year. And so of the 9-year analysis range, the average was 8.56%. Attendance rate assumptions was 96.34%. And so based upon that, we set ours at a 96%. I'm not sure why we are going forward. So based upon that, beginning of the year enrollment was 320.5. Our budget assumption was on 8.56% difference between the budget assumption and also the RADA. So our basic at the end of the year, what we're hoping for is a 293.065 in our for our final year number that we receive on our ADA. So based upon that, what we did is that we took a 96% attendance rate. We want to set our goals on 97.5 or higher, preferably 98 is where we want to target, but 97.5 is really kind of where we want to be. And so what we wanted to do is we really want to set a low number based upon COVID and any of the other related issues such as, flu, those types of things. So we really set it at 96%. So the final number was 281.342 is what the total assumptions were for that. Now, with that being said, let's go back over the differences between fund balance, earned revenue, and approved budgets. Fund balance is all the money, every bit of the money that we receive from the state and from the federal government and from local property taxes. Earned revenue is the money that we receive from the state for every student that we have in our attendance. The approved budget is what we assume to be that we are going to build our budget upon. So what we want to do is we always want to make sure that that green is lower than our blue. Because if we try to go all the way up to the blue, what happens if we don't have, it's on a time, I'm not sure why. If we try to go outside of that, what that tends to do is we get into a deficit budget. We don't want to do that. We always want to make sure that we have a padding of the blue. And so that's kind of where we are on that. Does anybody have any questions on this? Because this is really the pivotal piece of building a budget, is making sure that your approved budget is less than what your earned revenue is going to be, because you want to be conservative just in case something goes wrong. Okay. Budget basics. If you will look, guys, in your information at your table, the next one behind that is a chart of accounts. Chart of accounts, that is how you look at all your numbers, okay? And so the first three numbers of any of our chart of accounts is our fund, okay? Tonight we'll be looking at 199, 240, and what was the other one?
599.
599. Which is our INS account. Functions is where it is in the budget, okay? So in other words, what is it for? Instructional, support services, administrative support, debt services, those types of things. That's what the function is. And the last major one that you're wanting to look at is the objects. 1,000s are assets and other debits, 2,000s are liabilities, 3,000s are fund balance, 4,000s, 6,000s is going to be all of your personnel, your payroll, excuse me. Your 6,100s are your payroll, okay? And so that's more or less the ones you're wanting to look at. Does anybody have any questions on the chart of accounts? Okay. Now let's look at our proposed budget. So based upon the chart at the top, this is what the budget looks like. So you'll notice that the largest portion of our budget is in red. That is payroll, okay? Payroll represents 71.76% of our budget for this year. Anywhere between 70 and 80% is what your payroll is always going to run. Payroll includes salary, benefits, retirement, what else? What am I missing? All the withdrawals, federal, state withholdings, all of that stuff goes into those. The next is going to be contracted services. Those are the services that we provide through like the Region Service Center, those types of programs that we have. Supplies and materials would be just as it is, supplies and materials for all of our programs. Other operating expenses. Now, you'll notice that contracted supplies, other operating, looks like a very large percentage of that, but it really isn't. You're looking at contracted services of 10.74% of the budget. Supplies is about 9% of the budget. Other operating is 6.26, and then you'll look at capital outlay. Capital outlay for us is that we have a contingency account in for transportation or for a bus. Is that correct, Ms. Lakey?
Yes.
Okay. And then other uses is 1.63%. Does anybody have any questions on just the summary of the overall budget?
What is the state average on payroll?
Anywhere from 70 to 80. I've seen it as high as 80.
To get into an average, it is very difficult to do because every board has a different way of looking at it. And so it's very difficult to kind of get into. Some want to be very heavy-handed on payroll. Others want to be extremely conservative. And so, a general is you're looking between 70 and 80.
Not always hard to get above 80. You're getting looking for trouble.
Correct. Yes, you are. You're running into and red probably is not the color I should have used for payroll, but it sure did look beautiful, and it is our green color. So I'm just going to go with it for now. Any other questions on that? Okay, so our contingencies, we based upon our conversations from the last board meeting that we wanted to build in 4 different contingencies. One for instruction, which would be for anything. It could be personnel. It could be additional supplies, anything along those lines. So right now we have in 199.11, 25,471. For 199.34, which is transportation, we have 40,000 in there, which is what we're wanting to use towards the transportation of, so if we need, so when we get another bus or other transportation. One of the things we also need to look at too is not only buses, but our Suburbans are, they're gaining a lot of miles. And so we may need to start looking at some other options for that as well. For co-curricular, we currently have none in that account. And then 189.51 is maintenance, 36,022.93. Now, I would like to go back to this point of what this is essentially doing is a starting point. This is not the ending point. So in other words, we're building the budget off of a specific number, okay? That number is extremely conservative, okay? We are going to go well above that number. So as we generate more funding, then at that point in time, we're seeing over time that we're building that more funding, that at the end of the year, we're going to have a positive cash flow at the end. We can start putting additional money into these different contingencies to build in what we want. So in other words, if we need to have 60,000 in transportation, just for whatever it is, let's say we get through the first 6 weeks and we see that we built our budget on a number and we're 21 over that. So we can pretty much look right there based upon calculations that you're looking at 80 grand more, okay? If that's the case, then the board can always come back and amend the budget to put more money in. But what happens is, and the thing you have to think about is, and I'm going to go back to this slide over here, on this slide right here, what's in the green is what we can use. What's in the blue is what we've earned, but we can't touch until you all amend the budget to put it into the green. Does that make sense? Now, the gray is there. It can be used anytime you want to. That's the fund balance. You guys can go into that, but at the end of the day, we want to try to be fiscally responsible and maintain with what we currently are getting in from the state and federal government and from local for the year. Does that make sense? So that's more or less what we're looking at. So when you look at these contingencies, don't just look at them and say, this is all for the end. This is to start the budget, okay? And then we can always move it around. Now, if you guys would like for us to move some of these around before we approve the budget, we just need to know those things, and we certainly can move those around. But a budget is always amendable. But it is amendable only by the district's board of trustees, not by anyone else, okay? So any moving around in the budget always comes to the board, okay? Does anybody have any questions on that? Our tax rate. Currently, our M&O tax rate is 0.963, and our INS is suggested to be 28.5 cents. That is what the voters approved for the school bond, for a total tax rate of 124.8. And so if you'll notice on the screen here, the green is going to be the M&O tax rate. The blue is going to be the INS tax rate. And so INS tax rate of 124.8, you'll notice that it compares to 2012, 2013, and is below 2005, 2006, but it's above in other areas. I only say that for the reason of that, the taxpayers the taxpayers believe in the 28.5 cents. And so it is my recommendation that we initially start with that amount. Because again, now technically, this, being publicized, I just want you guys to understand, you guys have the right to set an INS tax rate. You can set it at 32 cents. That's your, you have the ability to do that. Is that necessarily suggestible? No, but you have the ability to go up and down. You just need to make sure that we can meet our bond our bond debt service. That is correct. Yes. So with that being said, for the INS taxes for this year, based upon just the collections that we're anticipating on getting, and off of the 28.5 cents, we're looking at $922,876 is what we'll bring in. Our first debt service payment is going to be $878,190.28, which means that gives us $44,685.72 to put into our INS fund balance. Okay, now guys, please understand, M&O fund balance, INS are two completely other things. M&O, we can use that money however the district sees fit. INS cannot be touched for only bond repayment. Okay, so just please understand that's the difference between the two.
In the first, the repricing, we get options like 3 years.
There are some options that we can go with, yes. Okay, so based upon our debt service schedule right now on the documents that were received through Stevens, this is what we're currently looking at. So the first column is the blue is the interest that is on the first year. The green is on the principal for the first year. You'll notice that what we're doing is our orange is going to essentially be what we're going to pay, okay? And then anything over that amount in the red is going to go into our INS fund balance, okay? The recommended, now you guys have the ultimate authority to decide how you choose to do it, but the recommendation is that you want to get to an INS fund balance of 1 year. So in other words, your INS, you want to make sure that you have anything that's overage for the first couple of years. Anything for the first couple of years, you want to continue to put into fund balance so that you can get into 1 year's worth of INS payments. That's including bond, and that's principal and interest. The reason why is what happens. Let's say that for whatever reason, minerals go down, property goes down, everything else, we're still having to pay that money. But if we don't have anything in for the bad years, then now all we do is default on our loan, and you can pretty much kiss anything that the district ever does again. I mean, it puts it into jeopardy. And so that's why they really recommend don't lower your tax rate until you can get at least 1 year's of INS in, just in case something goes wrong. Now, the other option is, sorry guys, I'm not sure why it's doing that, is that once we get that INS fund balance of 1 year, or what you guys choose to set it at, you can set it at 75% of 1 year, 60% of 1 year. That's your target. That's just what John Blackburn with Lavo suggested, was you really wanted to go for 1 year.
So are these figures calculated, or basically in a year we'll have a year's?
Well, yes. Yeah. Well, no. No. Okay. Now that's where I'm fixing to go with that is that is always based upon what you are bringing in your property. Okay. So there is a potential. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but there is a potential that a phase 2 wind farm is coming in. Now, with that being said, remember 313 agreements are going away. Okay. They have until 2022 to get their applications in if they choose to go with the 313 agreement. And what everyone is telling us is that anyone who's going to do it, they're going to fly fast to get it in because they want to have that valuation in there. So if indeed that comes along and that puts it in, you have to remember that's additional money that goes on top. So when you put the 28.5% tax in, whatever else is generated on the property side, you're going to be able to get more fund balance quicker because you have more property value that's coming in. Does that make sense? So it's more or less dependent upon how much your valuation is as to how much your fund balance is going to be. So if we had a massive change in our positive towards property value, then that red could actually be higher than that, which would mean more money that we put into our fund balance quicker. Okay. Now, once you receive that 1 year worth of INS fund balance or whatever you choose it to be, you have two options at that point. Well, I mean, you always have options, but the suggested option is, option one is that you continue the 28.5%, the 28.5 cent tax. And what you do is at that point is you maintain your INS fund balance and you start putting the rest of that money into what they call a defeasance account. Okay. What a defeasance account does is it is untouchable, minus some very tricky slick hands that I'm sure you can go in, but with a huge tax, takeout. But what that does is essentially tells your creditor that I am using this money and dedicating it and saying it is going towards year 25. Okay. And so what you're trying to do is with the defeasance account, you have INS and your regular tax that you're working from the front end forward. Okay. I'm paying year 1. I'm paying year 2. I'm paying year 3. Defeasance accounts looked at, I'm paying 25. Then I'm going to start working off 24. I'm going to work on 23. Okay. So the thing that you want to think about is that when you do that, what you're doing is the faster that my hands come together, taxes go back to normal, and I have saved the district money in interest. Okay. The slower my hands come together, the more interest that I'm paying on my loan, and the more that taxpayers are going to be burdened with having to pay it off. Does that make sense? I mean, I was a special ed teacher, so please understand, I use all sorts of things to make sure I get my point. So does that make sense, though, the difference between the two? Defeasance is something you don't have to look at now, but I just wanted to bring up to you what.
You're just paying the principal on the backside.
That's correct. Yes, absolutely. And what you're doing is it's proving to the creditors what you're doing. And so that's an allowable expense, is to go backwards with the defeasance account. INS is going to your forwards account. And you always want the INS fund balance to be there in the case of an emergency, that you're able to pay the front end, because you can't take the defeasance money out of that account to pay forward. So you want to make sure that you always have that.
Once you have the 1 year.
Yes, only. So it's kind of like that debt snowball that you hear about with Dave Ramsey. You know, always make sure you get that months of operating expenses, get that there for emergency situations, then start working on the rest of it. So that's more or less what you're looking at. Questions on that?
Back up to that page. What was our difference? Overage would be 44.
Yes.
And we need 878, so
Correct.
that's that same consistent rate for it takes 20 years.
It depends on, essentially, yes, I believe that's correct.
If everything stayed flat, it takes 20 years to get 1 year
Correct.
worth of.
Yes, correct. But with that being said, from my understanding is that we have some things on the horizon that's potentially looking better. So that's a good thing. But again, what you're wanting to make sure is that you can always meet your debt obligation. And so that's the number one thing, is you want to make sure that you set a tax rate that is going to guarantee that you're going to get that amount. And so that's the number one first thing you need to do. And so my recommendation will be is to leave the 0.285.
That's what we're going to do, I think, for this year.
Yes.
Will John Blackburn come back in next year?
Anytime that y'all want him to come in, he will be more than happy to come and discuss any options that you have. Yes. All right. Does anybody have any other questions on this part? What I'm going to do is we're going to stop sharing this part, and we're going to go back to looking at the budget. Okay, so guys, we have printed off the budget for you guys. It is on your desk. What's that? You should have. That's right. But you're right, you have more stuff on here.
So what did you say, the 313 is going to go away?
Yes,
They
so
have nothing to replace it with?
they did not. So in other words, the state did not. That bill died in the Congress, and so what that does is that no longer gives any types of tax benefits to renewable energies coming into the state. Now,
Paying full tax rate.
that's correct. Yes, so it comes straight off, which means that it's going to de-incentivize those industries from coming into the state. There is a potential that could potentially become something that's on a special session, but it is not something that's
Within that realm, if we do get something like that and it went away, then you get the Robin Hood program's going to come in and take a lot of it back away from us. So
Yes, we are right on the cusp. We are right on the cusp of being a property-rich district. And so what that does is that the way that a property-rich district happens is that you're only allotted a certain amount of money per student. That's it. So, we don't have $100 million. It's a certain amount. Whatever is over that certain set amount goes back to the state of Texas. And what you do is that you can there's several different options of how you pay your money back. You can pay it in attendance credit towards another district that's a property poor district. That's comparable. There's ways. But so once we receive that part, we could have all the money rolling in that we want to, but there's nothing we can do. That's why a lot of districts, what they will do is once they know that that's going to happen, they start doing bonds. Because what that does is instead of me spending my M&O money building my projects, I'm going to INS tax on the backside. So at least I'm generating something that's going to stay local. INS never goes to the state of Texas. INS cannot be touched by the state. M&O can always be touched by the state. So that's why you'll see a lot of districts that choose to go that route is once they start getting in massive amounts of property, they start building those projects. And sometimes, in a smaller district, guys, I'll be honest with you, if we wanted to go in and let's say that we, oh, by the way, just so y'all know that text that I sent you guys of the line, the robot that was lining the field, that was $8,000 for 2 years. You can lease the thing for $8,000. So let's say that that's what we wanted to buy. $8,000, it's not a lot of money. But let's say this, you could essentially go out for a bond for 1 penny. You're taxing the backside. That's money that the state doesn't get. Would you do that? No, of course not. But what I'm saying is that that's the only way that you're going to generate more money for your district is to go through the IMS tax rate. Because once you become property rich, you get a certain amount and the rest of it goes to other districts around the state.
When the 313 goes away, does it reopen the loophole that pre-existed? That we can take an abatement and in lieu of taxes, pay to this fund and.
I don't know the answer to that question. That's one I don't know. I don't know that answer to that one. We could probably bring Sarah Lee on because she's the 313 one for us that could answer some of those questions, or I could always just ask for a more clarification on that part. But that would be something we could definitely look into, but I don't know the ins and outs of that part. And so I was doing just good to have the basics of the 313 and they throw everything and I've lost again. So. Okay, so guys, what you're going to look at on these pages here is, for the most part, everything is the exact same as the last time of the August 9th. It was August 9th, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The only things that are different in here were, Ms. Lakey, you want to go through? I'm going to be quiet now. I'm thirsty, so go ahead.
You just want me to go through this whole thing?
What do you guys want? So in other words, did everyone look at this?
It's so much similar that I haven't messed with much of it.
What we did is we did go in and we did look at, we went back in and put in the budget numbers for the state what we're expecting from state revenue. That's what we did. And then all we did from that point is go into the contingencies and make it to where it's a zero. That's essentially all that we've changed since the last time.
That's the only thing I changed.
Yes. We did go in and we did have to move some money around in CTE and special ed. And just so you understand how those work, based upon the number of students that you have in a career and technical education program, you are required to spend a certain set of money on CTE.
$220,000.
And this is the deal. This nailed every school district that I'm aware of hard this year because the amount of CTE funding went up drastically, which is fantastic. The only problem with it, guys, is that that's money that is earmarked for CTE. I may not need all of that in CTE. I may need that for some other programs, but I can't use it. I have to use it for that. Does that make sense? So that's the hard part is we have to make sure that we're balancing our obligations in certain programs to what money is coming in the door. And so that was one of the ones that up to this point, we didn't have that massive, we had to actually go back to the Region Center and they had to run the template again just to make sure that there was not something wrong. But this is something that happened in a lot of school districts. The amount of funding went way up.
So that amount has to be used?
In CTE, and it is only certain allowable forfeiting. Yes.
Well, it's just, we put it in supply codes. It's mainly payroll. It's mainly, because that'll do your ag teacher, those kind of people. And then we have the extra, or the SKU, the culinary class and the nursing class stuff that we'll be spending some of it on too this year. So
those teachers' payrolls, if we're able to take it out of that, does that kind of give us a little bit of leeway?
Yes, and it literally is, guys, a chess game. And I'm just telling you, it is literally a chess game. And, Kendra sits in her office and closes the door. She cusses a couple of times here and there. But what she does is she looks at the master schedule and she says, okay, I've got these pots of money. Here's what I have to spend it on. And I don't want to use general for this. I can use this instead and use this money for something else. And so we literally have to go round and round and have to find a new way. And so there's a lot of times we'll go back in and code something differently. Now, another thing that you guys will need to understand too is this budget that we sit right here this is great, fine, and wonderful, but when I get in federal money, there's sometimes that I can take federal money to pay for some of these things, which opens up money in this budget to put towards contingencies and some other things. So this is not the end all be all that you're looking at here. This is just saying if we receive nothing else, no federal funding, nothing whatsoever, that we will be able to survive, and this is how we're going to survive. Does that make sense?
And we're balanced up.
Yes, we are at a zero, which is zero.
The 283.
Yes, yes, correct. And just so you guys know that we started the year at my ADA for the first week of school was, I think, 321.
Your actual attendance.
Yes, no, RDA, our ADA. So in other words, we're going to be funded off of the first week of school up to 321. So, I mean, that's a very nice buffer. Now, again, that's 1 week of school. You know, you're going to
Hold in there, or is it-
do it now.
I mean,
We are holding there, but again, COVID, flu, those types of things are just going to start getting in. And the first week of school, everyone wants to be here, right? And Ms. McWilliams and I talk about all the time how funny it is that parents are the same way, guys, just so y'all know. Everyone is so excited to get here on the first week of school. They drive up and they do exactly, and I mean, oh, those kids just bounce out of school. That second week of school, it's like dragging them out of the car. The parents are pushing them out of the car and saying, leave me for a while. I'll come back and get you later. So it's just a difference between that. And so as we start getting into the year, yes, that number is going to drop, but it's not going to drop anywhere close to what we had set at a 218. So that's what we want to do, is make sure it's consistent.
Like I said, I really didn't touch much of anything else. So if there's something that stands out to you, I'm kind of trying to talk through here, but I don't think, I do want to touch on the very last page, guys. If we go to that,
Now, you're talking about are you talking about last page of 199 or?
199.
Okay, so that would be what page?
It's going to be 1 and 1 on the very back page after the 18.
Okay.
So it's just a front and back, and that's our debt service, that's our INS. That's one that y'all have to approve. You can see there at the right-hand column where it says the 922,876. That's the number that Jason put on there that we should be getting revenue. The 881, what is we owe? The 881. Those things are split up between the principal and the interest down below that. And that's gonna, and then there's $3,000 that I put towards them, like miscellaneous.
878, 190, 28. And what's suggested is that we put in a little bit of buffer for any other expenditures for like administrative fees, anything that's, yes. So we just want to make sure there's a buffer in there for that.
So you'll notice that that's, obviously that budget is not evened out because we're expecting a surplus. So we don't even that out. But y'all do have to approve the 599. But then, yeah, on the back page, you can see the 2 totals there at the bottom.
This is 100% because she for the 96, 97 collection percent.
That is the 96% collection. But for us in our budget, that is 100% of what we put in our budget. Does that make sense?
So if we actually hit 100, it would be surplus over the number.
Yes, correct. Yes, it'll be 101.76, whatever it is. Yes. So if we do really good this year and we collect 99.5%, then that number is going to go above. And remember, in some of our reports that we had this year, our state funding actually was higher. So we saw our collective percentage be 105.76. It's more than what we realized it to be.
240 accounts also next to that one. Y'all, it's a couple.
240 is our cafeteria.
16, 17, 8 paid it, 16, 17, 18, that's just in there, that's balanced out as well.
So let's start real quick and let's go through 199, general fund. What questions do you have on that? Let's go there and then we'll work to 240 and go to INS so we're not bouncing around. Is there anything within that, again, budgets are amendable. And so it is something that, overall, if personnel changes, if there is things that we do, there may be some things that we'll bring to you. One of the things that we'll talk about tonight is we do have some budget amendments for the end of this school year. However, with our business procedure manual, one of the things that has changed is that we will make those budget amendments during the year, okay, not at the end. And so that will help you as well as us to make sure that everyone is staying, current with what do we need to be doing? What are the reasons for us moving this to this? And so those are things that we want to make sure that we have in place for that reason. And again, everywhere that you look, you'll see the ones that say 61XX totals. That is personnel related, okay? 6.2 is going to be contracted services. 6.3 is supplies. 6.4 is miscellaneous. Okay, so that's what you're looking at when you look at those totals within there. And please feel free, go through.
And you'll see the first whole 3 pages are just payroll.
It hadn't changed much from where we were the other day.
No, sir.
Like 50,000 or something.
No, sir.
That's lower.
What's that?
That's lower.
Which one?
Total overall budget. Look, this number is a little bit lower than the one the other day.
I'm not for sure. It may be.
It should be because you changed up the revenue stuff, so we have to even out.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, we did move down. Yes, just a
I
little.
think about $40,000.
That's right. Yes, we did. Just trying to be a little bit more conservative in numbers. You are correct on that.
Is the state gonna do anything on lunches this year for children or?
We are free. We are free again. And so we'll be free for this whole year. And then we will reassess at the end of this school year as to what's going to occur at that point in time. But right now, all children will be free for the remainder of this school year.
Was that the one where they had to sign up though?
No. They are free. I mean, every student that is in our district automatically is free. What we're asking is we need them to still fill out the paperwork because that paperwork helps us with Title I. And so, in other words, what happens is that if they'll fill out that paperwork now, not only does it not, I mean, technically they may qualify this year, but every kid qualifies this year, but it also qualifies them for next year. So they don't have to fill the paperwork out next year, it's forward. So in other words, it's going to not only help them now, but it will also help them next year as well. So we're trying to get as many of those in as we possibly can this year, if at all possible. And so, and because we're doing that, we're being audited again. So that was fun. And I only offended the lady one time. And so, I mean, I consider that as a win.
That's why you're getting audited again.
No. That was after the fact. So I didn't say anything in the meeting today. Miss Lakey told me to be quiet, so I did. I said, yes, ma'am.
Maybe making her mad when she's going to be making our life miserable.
There is also, for the most part, the majority, like the miscellaneous fees, those types of things, is basically what we had in years past. Nothing has really changed to a lot of those line items because, again, we're going to have some, differences. Revenue is going to be different this year. We did not take gate money last year because of COVID. This year we are taking gate money, so that's going to be additional revenue money that we're bringing in that we did not have last year. So that's one of the things that we're going to be in. We will be having I'm not sure exactly which group's going to do the concession stand because we were voted to do the elementary and junior high UIL when I played or academic needs this year. I'm not sure who really volunteered this for that, Ms. Cole, but we'll be fine. Right in the middle of construction, we'll be fine. It's all good. No, it'd be great. No one else wanted to take it, so we're going to have a meet, and so if we have to put it on, we will certainly do so.
Good. Good work.
How did our sports camera system work the other day?
It worked well, as far as I know. I mean, I was able to watch a little bit of it from the stands, and I mean, it was pretty clear, I thought. I mean, and for the first time that we'd used it. So one of the things that we have to make sure that we do is, and Coach Charbonnet may be able to answer a little bit of this too, but it's my understanding is we do have to receive approval from the other school district that they will allow us to use it. If they don't allow us to use it, then we can't. Is that correct? Is that what? Okay. And so, and I've made it very clear that if there's any other district that chooses not to do that, Mr. Loomis will make a statement every 10 minutes that we are not doing it because the other side did not want to. And so I'm just making it very clear that we're trying to give as many options for our people to watch.
That's also something that we send out to the other team to be able to provide to their.
Like game footage?
Like trade films. That kind of-
No, I mean, where the other stands could log in.
Yes, and I send out the link to the other superintendent. We did that for the Sands JV game, and so I would call Highland and make sure that we do that for them as well. And so we want to make sure that they have access. Again, it's only access to those that subscribe to NFHS.
Right.
And so that's the one thing that's the difference. But the nice thing about having that system set up is now if we have graduation outside, or even when we have the football games on the football field Saturdays, those are free of charge. Those are community events. Those are free of charge. So it'd be the same thing as like what we did for basketball. We would set it up for the whole day and anybody can get on and watch.
Are those also recorded? I mean, like we're coach and everybody, they can rewatch those?
The only thing that we have to do is that for the games that are Friday night varsity football games, they cannot be video on demand. So in other words, we can do it from our side that we can watch, but it cannot be to where anyone on the outside can view a game after the fact.
Right.
So yes, that's the only thing we have to make sure is
that
it's unlisted. Absolutely, yes. That's correct. And the nice thing also about it is there's an app that allows him, if he wants to go on the field, he can actually film practice. So it will actually film their practices as well on the main field. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now.
Well, being the other team has discrimination, whether it be filmed or not. What if we owned this system and we were streaming on Facebook or something like that?
Well, we own this system, but UIL rules state that it has to be both sides. So, and otherwise we would be violating UIL rules if we were to publicize it. That's the difference.
Kind of like
we own the system. We own both systems. They're outright ours. It's just UIL is permitting us media rights to publicize the event if we have
I was thinking it was through NFHS.
That's true. No. No. It's UIL approves NFHS Networks Pixelot to be the official camera system for UIL, and we own it. And so then we have the media rights through UIL to use it for UIL events. We can use it for whatever else we want. Okay, anything else on 199? There is no such thing as a done question. Anywhere that you see a blank under the 2021-22, if you see a blank, that means it's a zero. That means nothing's in there. Okay, it's a blank line item.
I just thought that's where you could write in somewhere.
You certainly could put something in there, but it is a zero. If we write something in there, we got to rewrite somewhere else to make it up to zero. Yes, sir. All right, if there's no questions on 199, let's now look at 240, which was
Page 15. No, 16.
16. Okay. All right, Ms. Lakey, do you want to go over this just a little bit on?
Well, if you start going down there and looking through the revenue in that right column, you'll see, okay, so like for the NSB and the NSLP, that's revenue that we get back from the state. You'll see that we've just budgeted $33,000 and $53,000 Well, this last year, we cleared 51.6 and 88.9 in those. And we anticipate having, we have a higher rate this year of return. So that's conservative, but that's just what we did here.
So last year when we had the free options, what she's referring to is that for every meal that we served, we got an X amount back, okay? And it was the lower reimbursement rate. This year, the same thing holds true, but the reimbursement rate that we're receiving this year is going to be a higher reimbursement rate than last year. So for every meal that we serve, we're actually going to get more money per meal than what we did last year. And that's why our revenues will be a little bit higher than what we had before.
So we can go out and look for better food?
It is not better food. It is staying within the nutritional guidelines.
Dang.
Don't think I haven't tried. And our cafeteria staff, I will say this publicly, they are busting their rear ends to try to make the food and they are doing a great job. And so one of the things that we've worked on, Ms. Atkinson has done a fantastic job is that she's trying to make a 3-week rotational schedule. So in other words, we're going to find 15 of the meals that are the most liked by our kids. And we're going to continue to rotate those through. And then maybe every once in a while throw in a meal to see if they like it better. But what we're really trying to do is get the meals that our kids are going to eat. The hardest thing is that the calculations is for the whole week, you have to have a certain salt intake. So all those meals have to come out to a certain amount of salt only. Then there has to be a certain amount of fat, all those things, and everything has to line out. So it's not just pizza on Monday, because if I had pizza on every day, I think we would do really well, but that's not how this works. And so, but that's what you have to do is make sure that everything is in line. So there is a calculation. So we work with the Region Center, and Ms. Atkinson has the trying to work through that to see what is going to be the best meals. And so it is a painstaking process. And so she's doing a fantastic job in trying to get us to that point.
Okay.
On this line. She's working for free.
Which one?
One
What?
says business manager got a 0 over here. You working for free?
Yep, sure am.
Where is that?
Oh, 12.
Oh, it's probably because I changed my code
Yes.
from a 6119 to a 6129, because I'm not a professional.
The reason why is that there's two different levels of business manager, and that's the only difference on those two. I thought you were talking about cafeteria. I thought you were talking about cafeteria, and I'm like, where is it in the cafeteria? We really messed that up.
It's just because I'm not like business certified in terms of have a degree in these little letters after your name and stuff. You have to code it differently because I'm technically a support staff.
We like your support.
Thank you.
And I got a pen, I'll write some stuff behind your name.
Oh, okay. Other than that, then you got your payroll. I haven't, I'll be cleaning up books this week, so I haven't technically done the USDA commodities journal entries yet, but that's why you'll see that next at the very bottom is 3563.44 that hasn't been coded as this year yet, that we spent anything, because I haven't done that yet. We don't have anything, here, but one, then you have your open transfers in and out. $17,049 to even us out to 0 in that account. That's just a transfer for bad debt stuff. If we go over in the fund, that just would be transferred in and out of 199 to 240 to cover that. And that is also budgeted in 199. It has to be the same.
We've got to finish out a transfer for the cafeteria this year.
Yes, about $29,000 and I budgeted 60. So we should be all right.
And then the only other fund, guys, is the INS, which there's nothing in it. That is essentially just what we anticipate to come in, what we have to pay, and what is over.
So that is it in a nutshell.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Now, this is a public hearing, so this is just the actual public part. We'll actually vote on that when we get into the regular item.
Any other questions? We'll move out of the public part of this meeting, and go back into our regular meeting. Information items. They start with the campus report.
Okay. I feel like we're kind of spinning and I'm not sure what else to report on, but we've had a good start to the year, actually, as overwhelming as it seems like it has been, but I think teachers are doing a great job. I went in several classrooms today. Kids, for the most part, were really excited to be here first week, and like I said, we're dragging a little bit at this point, but we'll get back in the groove. So just through some of the topics, I wanted to talk about some in fine arts. We've had a good turnout in art. We have 24 in high school art and 7 in high school theater, 29 in junior high art and 24 in junior high theater. Our elementary fine arts teacher, our new hire, Ms. Schrader, has been, the kids are loving that class, and we are getting, our third graders are going to start our first program of the year for Veterans Day. So we're excited to have that coming this fall in November. So as far as career and technology goes, we have good enrollment in both ag and business. And then our new offerings, we have 19 kids in culinary arts and 5 kids in health science with Ms. Taylor. So our dual credit courses are up and running. The kids started those last Monday. We're getting ready for homecoming next week. As far as the daycare goes, we have 7 full-time children in care and are expecting 3 more throughout the school year. Those are, of course, full-time staff kids. And then our attendance has been good for the most part so far. We're serving our COVID-related absences through remote conferencing option daily through Zoom. They log on with me in the morning to check in and have any questions answered about their work or anything like that. So, and getting our software programs up and running, and some of that will get better after Wednesday, I think. So after we get access to our full budget for the year, but otherwise we're back at it.
They wind up doing over the distance learning, but not going away September 1 for COVID.
But yeah, so students will no longer have the option to just electively stay home for virtual learning. They have up to 20 days throughout the year for COVID-related absences. So, but they have to do remote conferencing for those to be counted present. So that's what we're doing in the morning soon.
We allow 20 days.
Yes.
That is state. The state only provides 20 days for each student to utilize remote conferencing. That's essentially 1 positive and 1 stay-at-home period. It's no longer called quarantine. Stay-at-home period. And so that's why it's 20 days. Is so the 10 if you have a positive, and then 10 if you are stay-at-home period at some point. So it gives each student 2 different chances that if they are either in close contact or receive COVID, that they can have 2 times out and not have any absences for their term.
Anybody else have any questions for Misty? Misty, thank you. Move on to athletic director's report.
Obviously, football season started pretty well. We're in our 2nd week so far, and host Highland on Friday, and also have our Meet the Cubs, which obviously is for the middle school during halftime of that game. So that should hopefully boost attendance a little bit. our cross-country runners have done 2 meets so far. They're off this weekend, but then they'll run Tuesday at Eula. Girls have finished twice, or finished second twice.
I was gonna say, finished twice, that's a goal.
So they finished second twice, and several of them have placed in the top 10. They're actually, I think with the cross-country coaches poll voted that they're the #1 team in the state right now for girls cross-country for our division. Obviously with that, comes expectations, and so, but, they're working hard. We've got some boys that are doing well also, but, just kind of football going as well. They're kind of hit or miss if they're able to make, as a team. So, I think we should have a good showing in district, but obviously got a little bit of time before that. So, all in all, participation numbers have been doing pretty good. I think high school football, we're at 26 or 27. Junior high football's 24, 25, so not far behind. Obviously cross country, for the girls is somewhere around 7 or 10 for that. And then boys are, 3 to 5, depending on junior high school. So all in all, it's been a good start to the school year. So, I mean, just like everybody else, we've been dealing with kids being out too. So you just kind of, plug away and get those kids back when they can and kind of go from there. But all in all, it's been a very positive start, I think, to the school year and to the sports seasons. And we've got our picture days tomorrow for all fall sports. So we'll get those done. And I know everybody just wants to buy all those. So those will be a hot commodity once they get home. So, but yeah, that's really all I've got. So.
Sounds like you're off to a good start.
But they're working hard, so can't complain.
And we do apologize to those that made it to the JV game and only got there in time to get their drink and get in the stands before the game was over with. So we apologize for that, Mr. Raspberry, but, it was certainly nice to walk off the field with a W, before the end of this game. And the kids played well. And I was really impressed Friday night as well. They hit kids. I mean, it was fun to watch. It really was. Sidelines were bumping and fans were going. It was really nice to watch. So we really appreciate everything the coaches are doing.
I felt sorry for Sam JV coming in there for a couple of quarters and drive all the way back.
Certainly nice to be on the other end.
Anybody else have any other questions for Coach? Coach, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now I get to put Kendra back on the spot.
Oh, look at this. Okay. So I'm going to look at the revenue to budget for Fund 19-240. Obviously, we were just about finished with this. So in local revenue, we are at.
Were you looking at the function one or by summary?
I don't know, what are the first function?
Okay, by function, so second attachment.
It's page 1 of 5. And we are at almost under 4% there, so we got more money than we budgeted for. At state revenue, 94%, and everything together 97, it looks like 98. I'll print my pages. Okay. All right, that second page is expenditures to budget. So if you'll go through each one of those and those bold, that is the numbers that we've spent out of each account or each function that we budgeted for. So you can see that the health is over. And the transportation is because we bought a bus. Is that what we bought this year? Yeah.
Will this finish out August or is this the end of July?
It is up until, I think I ran them on Friday. So I've spent, you'll see the bills that I have through, it's really close. And I mean, nothing big. I think I spent $800 something today on bills or something like that. So it's so close that you wouldn't even tell. Extracurricular ended up at 83.5. Maintenance, we did not go over in maintenance, surprisingly, even with a lawnmower, a John Deere Gator with some of the playground equipment stuff that I've already paid for down payment. I think we ended up $1,000 still under budget in maintenance, which was really surprising to me with all of those things that we needed to buy this year.
And the playground equipment was it?
I think 37,000 of it, the down payment.
Yes, that's great. Yes, sir.
And then we are over in 81, but that's from the trailer. And I'll talk about budget amendments in just a bit. So, looks like we did pretty well, I would say, in my opinion. On the second attachment of revenue to budget summary.
That'll be the next attachment.
Yes, it's just 2 pages. It just gives you the comparison overall. It's pretty practically the same thing we just looked at. But it gives you the total expenditures and total revenue on each page of it. Okay. Yeah, it was touching.
Works a lot better.
There's also the, do what?
The touchscreen works a lot better.
Yeah. The cash positions, those accounts you can see, I have all the education fund, the debt service will be on there as well as our capital project account for bond things that we pay.
Is there 1.8 sitting in the general fund?
That is-
1.8.
Yes.
Okay, and that's there, if y'all want to look at that. All the, I think that's all we're looking for. Yeah, that's all the reports I have. Unless I'm missing something.
Anybody have any follow-up questions? We falling asleep yet?
I did finish drawing down Title I and read some stuff this week, so that's not reflected in here as well. So those are completely drawn down, so.
If nobody can think of anything else, we'll move on. Superintendent's report.
That'll be very, very fast. We have a football sound system. One of the things that the speaker system that we currently have is not an outdoor speaker system. So it's one of those that we have to move out to the field every time. If it rains, we can't use it. So what we did is that we went ahead and purchased a football sound system that will actually be able to house for the entire year. So in other words, we'll be able to mount those, and those will stay up all the way throughout football season. They won't come down. And they're outdoor speakers. What we'll do is once football season's over with, we'll take them down. Once track season starts, we'll mount those over there, and then they'll be able to use over there for everything as well. So we'll be able to have a system that works, that we don't have to worry about, moving in and out. And so that allows us to keep the indoor system indoor, one that's going to be on the outside. So we were really trying to come up with a way that we could really do that without blaring everybody who walks up the stands, with a speaker right here in front of your face that, if you have sinuses, just stand in front of that and it'll knock you out. So, I mean, it'll get you where it cleans you out. So you're good to go there. Playground will be here Wednesday or Thursday of this week, and they'll start putting that in. Hopefully Wednesday morning is when they will start doing that. The Bobcat is here, and it's being housed currently in our bus barn. So once they get here on Wednesday morning, hopefully, then they will start putting in all the stuff in the playground. Hopefully by the end of next week, they'll have it in. I think it ends up being 3 to 4 days is what we're thinking. It's going to be somewhere around that. So just depends on when everything gets here. So we're hoping within the end of next week that we'll have our playground in and ready to go. So we're excited about that.
Just curious how you're containing a Bobcat.
Do it. That was a good one. I'm kidding you. That was good. So really, honestly, that's the only thing I have for tonight. Otherwise, I have provided all the updates for you guys. So otherwise, that's it.
Well, get along on the agenda, we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Carter. We'll move into the consent agenda. Everybody go over last month's board minutes.
The only thing, just so you guys understand on the unofficial board minutes is, and I don't know why it's saying this, but whenever you open that up, it's saying that the meeting time and adjournment time is 6 minutes apart. It's not. When you look at the actual minutes themselves, it's not. So I don't know. So I'm going to go back in and play with that part of the formula. So just understand that everything else other than that is accurate. That's the only thing that is a little bit wonky that I'm not really sure why it's doing that.
Anybody else, any amendments or corrections to make? We'll move on. We'll approve all of them at once. We'll go
Yes.
with tax report, Fish County Appraisal District.
Yes. Okay. So this will be the July one. We brought in $9,527.21, and for an overall, that's including penalty and interest, $13,998.77. There was a discrepancy on a deduction that the auditor for the appraisal district came up with that changed the remaining balance deducted. So out of it was from October 2nd of 2021. And so what they're doing, they're deducting that from the 2021, and the balance was $10.50. So all it is in and out. And so just all the information Laura was able to put in there for us. So that's the only thing that's different. It's not that we, owed any less or any more. It's just that the way that the audit came out, that they needed to do it in a different way. And so that's the only thing that's there that's different on that end.
Everybody good with the tax collections? Let's see, what else do we got?
Bills.
Move into the bills.
For the most part, looking at the July 2021 bills, you've got a lot of professional development, refresher courses are there. We do have some maintenance and some just general expenses, janitorial supplies, the junior high cheer uniforms, those came in. So that's pretty much what was out of the July 2021. The ones out of August 2021. Slow me down if y'all need me to. Is going to be a lot of the same thing. We had some coaches travel. We had ag teacher conference, FFA travel, a lot of that in there. Clearinghouse credit is going to be for fingerprinting and services for that. For the most part, we've got utility bills in, electricity, TASB fees, inspections, copiers, professional development for those that did it during the summertime. A lot of our thermostats in the elementary building are starting to go out. They're systematically starting to go out, so we're having to replace those as we go along, and so we're having to do that part, and so we're working on that right now. Mower parts, other thermostats, and then that's cross country travel and football travel. No major big bills there.
And there's just a few more, and we'll finish up this fiscal year.
That's correct, yes, sir.
I think the biggest one I have left that hadn't come in yet is electricity bill, so.
Did they finally get it down a month here, or we still?
Better. I really wish I could bill in tomorrow.
It's been a fun time. Let's put it that way.
What I was wondering, I didn't know if we were gonna get hit for 3 or 4 more months on it.
No.
You never know.
Moving on to bills.
D, E, and F are essentially just to consider for approval Misty McWilliams and Michelle Cole for T-test appraisers, and approve me for the T-test appraisers for the 2021-2020 school year. And then also to consider for approval the substitutes of Dana Groach, Sheila Humphrey, Jessica Street, Teresa Womack, and Tracy Reister to the substitute list. So I recommend approval of all consent agenda items A through F.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F. I'll second.
Have a motion and second for the consent agenda items A through F. Any further questions on anything? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Move on down to the regular agenda for the budget amendments. So I guess, Kendra, you gonna bring us the
I'll
amendments?
do that. Instead of 100 pages this year, I did one.
All right.
So, you'll see 199, because everybody had a copy or on
No.
everything. They don't.
It's on your attachments.
The thing is we don't have to pull any money from, general. I'm taking 100,000 out of function 11 to cover all the other places that I might need some padding. So, I mean, that's all I did this year. Instead of taking any from anywhere else, I had enough money to move around money within the budget already. So that's what I did. So all of those you'll see where it says 100,000 in the middle column, that's what I'm changing. So the very first column is what the original budget is. The second one is how much I need to add or take away from. And that third column is what it will end. Okay? So, in function 12, I'm gonna add 1,000, and nursing, I'm gonna add 5, and student transportation, I'm gonna add 40,000 to cover the bus. Food service, I know that says it's still, fund 199, it's just a one line item in our food service thing that I have to take money out of every so often. Maintenance, I'm gonna put in 20, just to cover electricity, anything else that comes in. Data processing 1, that's where most of our SSA stuff comes from. And our capital outlay in function 81 is where we put the trailer, and I'm gonna add 27 to that one. So that one comes right and easy and pretty. Are there any questions on that? Okay. 240 is not gonna need to be touched. That'll be the second page. It's fine, but 599 debt service. I am gonna cover $200 worth of expense there. I believe we just, that's where I got paper checks for the fund, so that's all that is. But we'll just need $200 there, and that is it.
Do we have some movement for our cafeteria fund we gotta make?
I still have to do the transfer yet. So I believe it's 29,000 something dollars that I'll have to make. And I'm going to the service center Wednesday to move everybody into current year, or the 10-month employees into current, put the new budget into current so we can actually pay bills. And that'll be one of the things I do for cleanup is USDA commodity journal entries, the transfers, anything for federal funds, I'll clean up. Everything's just gotta be zeroed out for
Well, and we had budgeted 67,000. Since we're not going over that amount, there does not have to be an amendment because it's automatically in and out.
I'm gonna do that
So
for you.
yes, that's,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I was looking for that.
Yes, no, you do not, there's those types of, that's the only one that there is no such thing as an amendment for. It's just an automatically saying this is going from here to here. We just have to show it in both
I won't
places.
need one because we didn't go over the 66 that I had budgeted, so. Everything else is there.
Board, is my recommendation that we approve the budget amendments as presented.
Everybody good with budget amendments? Motion to approve this.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented. 1 second.
Have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the budget amendments. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7. Consider for approval of 21-22 original school budget for the general fund 189, food service fund 240, and debt service fund 599.
Board, it is my recommendation based on what we had looked at during the budget presentation during the public hearing, that we consider for approval the resolution for the 2021-2022 original school budget for General Fund 199, Food Service 240, and Debt Service 599.
Debt services are INS.
That's correct, yes, sir.
We have to state rates.
We'll do that next.
Do that next, okay. So I guess I need a motion for approval on this.
I'll motion to approve what was stated by Mr. Carter.
I was waiting. I'll second it.
We can't take you serious with that mask on like that. You laugh and it just doesn't look like you.
Yeah, the mouth's not very big. Have a motion and second for General Fund 199, Food Service Fund 240, Debt Service 599. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I'll move into 21-22 original school budget.
Now we are on agenda item C, so where we are. C.
Thought we was gonna do,
No, we just did this. We just did this.
line to do here, let's see.
We did the budget amendment here. We just did this one here.
So we didn't have to state,
We're about to do the tax rate here.
okay.
It's pretty good.
So this is just budget here, this will be tax rate there. Okay, I got it up on my thinking, I'm sorry. Number C, consider for approval of resolution to adopt 21-22 M&O and INS tax rates.
Board, it is my recommendation to set the tax rate for the 2020-2021 school year to $1.248 to be assessed and collected by the duty-specific assessor and collector as follows: 0.9630 for the purpose of maintenance and operation, and 0.285 for the purpose of payment of principal and interest on debt.
Everybody know where we're at now? Everybody in agreement for a motion to approve the tax rates as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax rates as presented.
Second.
Motion and second for $1.24.8 total, M&O 96.3 and INS of 0.285. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Dakota, you need to sign this.
D, we read the resolution approving Clay Cole and Nick Dixon as adjunct faculty members for the 21-22 scholastic year.
This board is just what we do every year for those that are the county extension agents for the two counties that we have students with the WAR-H. This allows them to have extracurricular absences versus just regular absences. And so it's my recommendation that we approve the resolution approving Clay Cole and Nick Dixon as adjunct faculty members for this school year.
Do we ever have any from Nolan County?
And not that I'm aware of, we've never had. No,
In the past.
No, and then, but in the event that we ever do, all of it, we would have a resolution and immediately make it so. So it's not a problem.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolutions approving Clay Cole and Nick Dixon as adjunct faculty members for 2021-2022 scholastic year.
Second.
Mouth didn't even move.
No,
I'm here at the best. I can be on America's Got Talent.
It's like watching one of the Chinese dub movies.
Exactly.
I have a motion and second on what Kevin said. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Move on to E, the resolution to nominate candidates for the Fisher County Appraisal District Board.
Board, it is my understanding that on the candidates for the board of directors for the county, the appraisal district, that based upon the document that you have there from Kellen Walker, that Richard Gayon and Terry Coker will no longer stand for re-election. However, Preston Martin, Kevin Stewart, and Charlie Cleveland are standing for reelection. And then you have the right, as one of the entities in the appraisal district, to nominate members as candidates for the appraisal district. And what happens here is that you guys would nominate individuals. Those would be turned over to Kellen Walker. Kellen Walker would then turn and put them onto a ballot. And then that ballot would be sent to all the entities. That includes anyone who has any taxing authority in the district, and that each of them has a certain number of votes. And then when it comes time, I believe that's October, is that you will put your votes wherever you want to. Whoever ends up with the most is on the appraisal district board for the year. And so it is, we have till the 15th of October to turn in our nomination resolution. So we essentially have this meeting, and we also have October's meeting that we can use to find anyone that you'd want to, because our next meeting will be on the 13th. And then that would be the Wednesday as well. It needs to be turned in. So this does not have to be something decided tonight, but more or less, if you want to discuss it, you certainly can, or if you want to think about that and come back at the next meeting, you certainly can do that as well.
For one position?
No, you can nominate as many as you want.
I didn't see a number here.
No, you can nominate candidates. So you can nominate 12, you can nominate 4, you can nominate 1, or you can nominate none. That's your choice. And then you would just essentially, whoever's been nominated will go on to the ballot.
So
and then on the ballot.
all the positions are up for.
That's correct. All the positions are up. It's just stating that on here that Richard and Terry do not want to seek re-election.
How many positions are there?
President and vice president.
I'll add you up. Sure.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, sure.
Chris,
Chris Estes.
Or the raspberry bean counter.
Jason Carter will tell you we nominated him one year. It wasn't a pretty deal.
No, that was not. I still haven't forgiven him for that.
He has not. So y'all be thinking of people, or what y'all like? We've got till October 15th to get this in.
But really, honestly, at the end of the day, this is a very important position because it is your voice on the appraisal district in setting appraisal. I mean, that is something that they're there for. That is a part of what we get our, some of our property taxes on. So it's very important. It is a very important position. And so, yes, I do not forgive you for nominating me for that, but it was not necessarily for forgiving me for doing it. It was that y'all didn't tell me beforehand. And so it was just like, literally, it came out of left field. And so I live in left field, but that took me way by surprise. So that's the only reason why I'm saying that. So do you want to table that? Is that my understanding?
Michelle got some good names or something. I'll just table it and we'll readdress it later. I guess we'll table that one and move on.
Yeah. Trustees, on the next one is the approval of the 2021-2020 Business Procedure Manual. Ms. Lakey, would you like to go over this one?
Yes.
This is all 115 pages.
She's going to give you the abbreviated version.
It's mainly I went and did a workshop for this at the service center, and they pretty much gave everyone a template to update everybody's business procedures manuals. And ours was previously like 70 pages, I believe, and I was going through it and, it's bad. It just didn't have enough meat, I guess you would say. Some of the things that it didn't explain very well of what kind of procedures we do. So I updated a lot of that. I'll probably go in through it again, and I'll probably amend it again, just so y'all know. But I wanted to at least get something started for the new school year. And I know just one thing of note, I did go in and up the travel amount money, because we're getting to events that even the concession stands are at least $8 for the kids to eat, and ours was at $7, and I just bumped it up $1 for those things, because I just want, that way we can at least try to be compliant with what that actually says. So I did do that, bumped it up to $8. other things there's really not a whole lot of other things of note. I just put in more detail in a lot of it, so you don't want to go through and read that.
A lot of it is more or less, in order for us to maintain compliance with a lot of our grants
Yes.
and with a lot of federal, we have to make sure that we have certain language in certain spots.
And there was a lot
And
of
that's
new
more or
things
less what it
for
is that it's not anything that's dubious. It's more or less just the meat and potatoes of making sure that we do it. It's just now it's in black and white.
The actual
So-
language.
Exactly.
So, okay.
And it is amendable anytime.
Yes.
And so,
And like I said, I am going to probably work on it more. I just wanted something started, even though it's so long. It's initially there's a lot of things in that business procedures manual that we didn't have in ours. Not necessarily that that's a bad thing, but I just like it to be set in stone of what we would do for each thing that we do. So.
Well, this is not nothing new. This is updated version of
Correct.
what we have. Better fit our business.
Correct.
So you need a motion on this tonight?
Yes.
We need a motion. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the 2021-2022 business procedure manual as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second for the 21-22 business procedural manual. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And maybe she won't get us too many amendments to make to that too quick.
I'll let you know.
All right, now we got the family medical leave request.
so do you want to go with that, please?
Or is this something we can talk about in closed?
No,
Or-
it's
Okay. I only found one on my deal here.
What's that?
I'm always getting this one. It's got
That's
two
it.
names.
She's going to go over that reason, yes.
I have 2 employees that applied for FMLA this year. All FMLA does is secure your job. I mean, it's not saying that we have to, I guess what would be the best way to explain that? They apply to this so they know that their job is still here when they get back from maternity leave and those kind of things. But I had these 2 employees apply for this before school started because they knew that this obviously was coming up. So that way we can have subs ready and things like that. So it's really not a big thing. I just have a sheet in there that shows that they should apply for that and everything.
And can you explain why there's only one?
Because the other employee hasn't worked here for a full year. She's not actually eligible for FMLA. That just means that, I mean, it's,
More or less what we're asking for is a sign of good gesture that we are going to take care of our employees, regardless of whether or not that they technically by legal law have the FMLA or not, that we're saying that your job is secure with us. Go have your child and come back. And that's more or less what we're asking for, if that makes sense.
yes.
Is there a length of time tied to these?
I think you can have up to 12 weeks. I don't believe either one is taking the full.
And that's 12 weeks non-consecutive. So in other words, you could take 6 weeks off with the baby and then a week if they have to go to the hospital or doctor's appointments. It's not consecutive. Yeah, that's correct. Yes, sir. And that's my recommendation that we approve the FMLA leave for Amy Dick and Haley Saldana.
I'll make a motion to approve the FMLA for Amy Dick and Haley Saldana.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the FMLA. Yes, hello?
Do you have a question?
I guess I'm still able to vote on that.
What would be the cause for?
I guess it doesn't really matter as far as the kid to me. But I guess it's-
No, you're fine because there's no interest in it. I get what you're saying.
I think I understand that. No, good.
So no conflict, we're good. Motion and seconds on the floor for the FMLA leave for the 2 people acknowledged. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? No abstains, there were 7 on that one. I do have a question on that. Where we at on COVID leave?
We, that is, that's a little bit more of a, I'm not really sure how to, I mean, there's many different ways people are doing it. And so I don't have exactly, we don't have anybody that's in that situation at this point in time. In the event that we do at that point in time, we can make it retroactive. So in other words, I'm trying to get as many languages as I possibly can to bring to you, hopefully at the next board meeting, for you guys to look at to see, you know, if you want to do it, how do you want to do it, what other districts are doing. But I mean, we'll take care of our people as we get down to it. So.
I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, sir.
I was asked that today.
Yes,
so
sir.
I thought
No,
we'd-
I mean, we don't have that at this point in time. We don't, but I mean, it's certainly on the back of our mind as to we want to make sure we take care of our people. So we're trying to work with other districts to see what they're doing so that I can bring you back some different options as to how we handle that. And we can always make it retroactive as well.
The ones that I've talked to, everybody's been different and different
That's
ideas.
right.
And
Yes.
the only
And
thing
it's
that I'm seeing is, you know, we have 10 days, other places have different days, but
correct.
a lot of these teachers are coming to work because they don't want to use their days and they may have been exposed or
Yes.
possible, and
Yes, sir.
wondering how we're going to go about that in the future, but we're working on it. We're good. All right, now we move on for approval of 21 collections contract for the Fisher County CAD office.
Board, what we have is I did get the general operating budget for 2021 after from Kellen Walker, and based upon what I was given, the proposed operations budget for Roby CISD will be $37,771.67. That's actually a drop of $4,900 from last year. And the collections is going from 3257 to 26,794.14, which is a drop of 3463.58. So instead of going up with the proposed or the draft budget, it is now decreases in both operations and collections for the 2021 collections contract. So based on that information, it's my recommendation the way you approve the collections contract.
Trying to figure out what the total was.
The total is going to be, I can get you right. Again, it is proposed, it's my understanding is they're approving their budget. Do what?
About September 14th is their deadline.
But that is what she is proposing.
64,565.81.
Sounds right.
How much over last year is that?
That's actually not over. We're actually under 7,000, almost 8,000.
So we approve this contract or table it, or how much time do we have?
We have until the end of September to approve it. So we have one more board meeting that you could essentially make the decision on it as to what you choose.
Well, look at these current numbers, and it is a decrease in what it was last year, and we don't have enough time, I don't think, to find somebody to do collections. And we're still gonna have to pay the appraisal price for their operations.
Yes.
So,
Irregardless of what you choose to do with the collections, the operations will stay with the appraisal district. So
what do y'all think?
Well, I don't have much of an option here. Like to approve it?
Approve it or do it ourselves, or we're gonna be stuck with that.
I'll make a motion to approve collections contract with Fisher County Appraisal District.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the Fisher CAD contract for the 2022 year. Any other questions, thoughts? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Moving into now. We get to see some scoreboards.
Yes, this is the one that I had brought to you previously, and this is something that the gymnasium is going to be a need for this year. I don't know that we're going to be able to go an entire basketball season without having something go down, and that's a pretty big thing for us. And so what I did is that I did get the two quotes from Nevco and from Spectrum. Nevco's prices for the main gyms, which is 2 boards, one big and one small in the main gym, a small one in the auxiliary gym, and then a small softball one. Again, it's the pitchers that we approved before. The pitchers are also attached in here as well. Nevco came in at $14,589.26, and the Spectrum was $23,949.00. And so if you were to choose to go with one of those options, I would choose to go with Nevco. If you want to wait and go a different route, that is certainly your option to do so. But it is something we need to definitely have on the forefront. And the one concern I have is that the longer we wait, if it gets held up by Custom and Border Patrol, that, it may be.
Have they said what their availability, I mean, do they have these?
As far as, whenever I talked to them last time, is they have them available, they're ready to ship. And for the most part, based upon everything that I got from both companies, it is something that we can, that our maintenance crew can put up. It's not something that has to be installed by them. It's essentially just a matter of taking the old one down, putting the new one in, and making sure that the modules are in it. There's no wires. It's essentially electric, and everything else is wireless.
Compatible with the.
That is correct, yes. And so what we'll do is that with that, we'll get with Pixelot. They'll come in and actually put in the module that goes in the board. And so every time it changes on the board, it will change there. And we'll be able to do the same thing on the football field. That one just is going to take a little bit extra time to get that one done. But the basketball one will definitely, yes. And that's why we want to go with the wireless for that reason. And then that also comes with 2 controllers. So that means that we can run the main gym and the auxiliary gym at the same time. So you're not having to go back. So even when we have junior high tournaments, if we have high school tournaments, if we have little league tournaments, that both gyms can be used at the time, and you have clock and time and scores in both gyms. And so those are the options.
Why such a price difference? Is it that much better?
To be honest with you, I think, in my opinion, Spectrum's a lot like Nike. It's the name. It's not nothing different than that. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but that's what I've gathered from.
Like, is there much warranty? Is that with them for any period of time?
There's, it's basic warranties. There's no extended warranties on either one of them. And so it's a basic, I think it's like 10 years. I think that's ours.
How about these?
Both of them are the same. Both of them, essentially, when you look at the controllers, they're essentially the same. It's not, that's one of the things we wanted, was to make sure that the features that are on the board are very simplistic in nature. We don't want anything that has the in and outs, the numbers, the points, and everything else. We need something that anyone basic can go in and run it. And so that's what we wanted. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Coach, you have any thoughts on these?
I'm good with either one. I've used both in the past, Nevco more recently than others, so they all work well. Just once you get the hang of it, it's like that. So yeah, I think definitely in that auxiliary gym, to be able to, run games in there would definitely help. So, because I think there's not a working scoreboard in there currently.
What about sales advertisement around that?
You can do it one of 2 different ways. We can go the basic price, just purchasing it outright, and at that point, then going in and having sponsors that we can put up, around the outsides that we could do for, per year or 4 years. I get really concerned sometimes of trying to go out and say, will you buy this board for us? And then you get some people that are like, well, they buy the board, and then that's great advertisement for them for 15 years, and so this way it allows you the opportunity to really, kind of do it on a more annual basis versus that. So, it's just something that I don't know. I think sometimes you can get really finicky on worrying more about the sponsorship than you do about the actual board itself. And so I think we can do the sponsorships to end up paying for it, but not upfront, if that makes any sense. That's kind of my thought process. We are working on some different promotionals for actual sign banners that are going to go in the main gym on the brick wall. Those that we can put up that will also help us fund some of these recouping our costs on some of this. So we are definitely looking at options for that as well. So, but it's certainly, if y'all want to do that, I can certainly get with them and they can build in the promotional boards and everything else around it. For me, it's a lot easier for us to put those up ourselves and change them when we need to versus having something that's there for, a long period of time. So that's my opinion.
I agree. But I do think it'd be worth presenting, just like some of those you were saying earlier that wanted to give to, there's an opportunity to.
Yes. And we're trying to find ways that we can not only use the promotionals, not just in basketball, but also have it to where we can put those out on the football field, move them to the basketball court, move those to the baseball field, those things as we go from one sport to the other so that we can really, help our partners out. So that's kind of what we're wanting to do, is to really try to make it to where we can recoup our costs on everything we're doing. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. And we can funnel some of that through the Education Foundation as well.
What kind of lead time do they have on these?
They couldn't give me anything until we get closer to the time. But for the most part, from both of them, they did not seem to indicate to me that this was a long lead time. Again, that's.
The Booster Club set up as a nonprofit too.
That's correct. Yes. So. Yes, and we can certainly utilize that as well. Yes. And then I believe also the softball association that April and them do, I think that they were raising some funds for some of that as well. And I think I talked to April about some of that. So there's some things that we may be able to utilize some funding through them as well. So.
Anything else you want to think of? So would y'all look at making a motion for us to go ahead and purchase these and have them installed and then looking for funding later?
That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I think if it's just a name brand that's different, they're both compatible with, go with the Nevco. With the way everything else is, if we didn't go with them right now, we may not, give them.
Period of time.
So I'll make a motion to approve getting the scoreboards from Nevco for the main gym, auxiliary gym, and softball field.
I'll second that.
Kevin, second. I have a motion and second for the Nevco 2 basketball gyms, softball field for $14,589.36. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we're going to amend the 21-22 academic calendar.
Ms. Cole, would you like to present this item since you're the one, the one that donated, that's volunteered us for this? No, I really honestly, really no other district wanted to host the UIL academic meet for junior high and elementary, and we will not do that. Our kids will participate. And so if that means we run it, we will run it well. And so we're excited about running it. And so in order for us to do that, one of the things that we're asking for is to take off December 1st and 2nd, which would allow us to be able to not house all of our students that are non-academic on campus during those days so that we can focus our faculty and our facilities on just those individuals that will be coming. Now, this is all to say that everything is great, fine, and wonderful, and that Delta doesn't, mess us up. But as of right now, we want to plan for that. So it is my request for you guys to approve making December 1st and 2nd the school holidays, or student holidays, not staff holidays, student holidays for December 1st and 2nd, 2021.
I'm still sorry for other schools that we can't figure they can handle it. I appreciate y'all doing it.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to school calendar.
I'll second.
Motion second to amend the school calendar. Second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? 7-0. Any resignations or new employments we need to know
We do
about?
need to go in executive. So we want to take a break. and go in executive.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll take a break. This time, main part of this meeting, we'll take a break. When we get back, we'll go into closed. Chapter 5, 54-07 personnel.
All right.
So, yes, sir. 42.
All right, y'all can come back in.
Back, come on in.
Need a couple more people coming in, looks like.
Looks like. So 8:42, the board has come back out of closed session. No action to be taken afterwards. What do we have? You don't want to touch on anything? We will look at the handbook next month.
Yes.
And anything on this TASB policy update?
No, we'll bring all that up. We'll have to go through all that stuff in September, so we'll take care of that. And then we will set, right now, it's going to look like on your calendars, if you guys will check, we're going to have to do the bids the 22nd or 23rd of September is, I believe, when they're looking at that. It's a Wednesday or a Thursday to approve the bids for all of the school bond. And so it'll be a quick meeting. That'll be the only thing on the agenda. And so, and I'll send out a text message to you guys just to verify again which day we're doing this. I'll get with Gallagher Construction to make sure we have it all ready. They'll bring it to you guys. We'll present it, and then y'all will make your decisions on what you want to do.
Is that something we do middle of the day for everybody to be?
No, they'll be here. I mean, whatever time you have a board meeting, they will be here for us. So whatever you guys want to do, that is completely up to you when y'all want to do that.
Both those days are open, but Thursday is probably a better day, just because Wednesday is churches.
Yes, exactly. And so that's why, I mean, that was just something.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just putting that out there. Thursday is good on my end.
Okay. Then I will send the text and we'll verify all that.
Did I hear you say it turned at 9:42?
So you're right.
Okay, man, I don't know about y'all, but I heard that loud and clear. Y'all have a great night, guys.
Yeah.